What's going on, everybody? How you doing? In today's video, we are starting a very long, interview with Neil Peart. This is from 2015. This is a donation request video. This is from Seth. I split it up into 6 videos so that it's not the full hour and a half long. Because, yeah. But, you know, this is why I make the big bucks, right? Anyways, this is Neil Peart interview with Jim Ladd on SiriusXM Deep Tracks. I cut out any music that's in here, which there actually wasn't. It was mostly just like tag beginnings and ends. It was all like clipped out. But this is from February 3rd, 2015. We're going to check out part 1 today. If you're new here, please subscribe, check out my videos, all kinds of videos, reaction videos, bass videos, music videos, check it out. If you like the channel, you want to support the channel, you can hit super thanks underneath this video. You can hit me direct in the description. I got PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, Amazon wishlist, mailing address, and I do donation request videos just like this one. So if there's something you want me to listen to watch, to talk about, a question, anything, hit me direct, PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, and in the notes section, leave a description, leave a link. Let me know what you want the video to be on, and I'll make the video. Also, you can email me at jpanreadsemail@gmail.com. That's also in the description. All right, thank you to everybody who has hit me for donation request videos. I'm like 2 weeks out. I have so many to do and that are uploaded and scheduled and all that stuff that it's like, it's out there. You can always email me or message me or whatever. Hit me in a comment if you're like, hey, I did a request, where's it at? And I'll tell you what date it's scheduled. Cause yeah, but I got you all. I got you. You already know I'm good for it. That's why. That's one of the great things about doing this Rush discography is that at the beginning I said I was going to do it, and so many people were like, you're never going to get to the end. Multiple people have tried it, and this, that, and the other, they can't do it. It's like, okay, you don't know me. That's fine. That's fine. I'll just do it and show you that if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So anyways, I'm doing your requests. I love them all. They're freaking fantastic. It's really cool. I'm getting put onto some really cool stuff. Some things that I'm not crazy about, you know, and that's fine. It's to be expected. I can't love everything, and you know that I'm not going to lie to you. So, you know, I give you my honest opinion, but this is part of it. I was requested to do this super long. Seth hit me up. He was like, hey man, here's $1,000. I want you to do this hour and a half long thing. And I was like, you know what, Seth, you're the man. I will do it for $1,000. But it'll be multiple parts. So here we go with part 1. Bam.
Rush built their following the right way. No hype, no bullshit. They did it from the ground up. Their legacy is incredible and their influence undeniable. And with that, I welcome Neil Peart.
Squirming.
What the heck?
Many people might not know, but should, how far back you and I go. Probably 35 years. I think we've had these semi-regular conversations, and that's pretty remarkable too.
It is remarkable. Motorist. I remember the very first one, and it seemed from my side that it kind of clicked right off the bat. It was fun. It was fun.
We're still talking.
We're still, yes. It says something that you would come up here. I appreciate that. Well, here we are under a beautiful full moon high in the Hollywood Hills, and we're going to have us a nice time, I think.
Yes, thank you. Glad to be here.
Let's begin with 40 years.
That's a good place to start, right? If you could just
there.
start with 40 years, then you wouldn't have to start with 0.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
But it is, of course, very amazing for the three of us to have reached such a point together and to still share a sense of humor and a sense of purpose. And as we started to plan this tour, it was remarkable how in sync that we were about what we wanted to accomplish and express and present for people and how to go about it and working out the set list and so on. Of course, there are way too many, but we said, well, we'll play this song one night and the next night we'll play this other song, and accommodating everybody's preferences and tastes. And more, it's more than personal. Yes, that's the way to say it. It's more than personal. You're thinking of the presentation of the band to an audience who have been around for decades also, so that they will have not necessarily expectations, but you want to deliver deliver something worthwhile as a statement that kind of encapsulates and punctuates that time together. And I was saying we should call it a jam into the oldies would be one approach we could take. But it really was fun discussing different approaches that we might take to it, and how to choose from among all the material. And and it was simply done once the three of us started sharing email lists of songs and all that. I said, well, we played a lot of that, last tour. We can set that album aside. And what about this one we haven't played for a while? And we want to do a complete chronological presentation of all that time too. So it was just nice how easily those decisions were arrived at, and any time there was too much, and there was nobody saying, oh, I won't play that, I won't play that. There were too many songs that we all wanted to play and possibly resurrect as we've done. And so we just said, okay, well, we can do those. We can do all those songs, just not all on the same night.
Well, one of the things I think speaks very loudly for the three of you is 40 years you're still together and speaking to each other and seeming to really still enjoy each other.
Yeah, that is an unbelievable gift, and earned over time, developed and built on over time. But it's fundamentally based on the first things that we shared, which was a sense of humor. The very first day we met, we were talking about Monty Python sketches, and immediately, if you have a sense of humor in common, there's something that you can build on from there, and the same background musically, of course. So once we started music and started talking about music and ambitions and what we'd like to do inside of an original band, that was there too. But yeah, it absolutely first started talking about funny things.
And to your point about pleasing yourselves and the fans, it's almost with your fans like playing for family, isn't it? I mean, they've been with you for so long.
Yes, and I've always said it seems kind of over-reductionist to say, but it is as simply as we made the music that we liked and hoped other people would like it too. And there was a purity that we grew up with in the 60s that, not to sound like an old fogey, but when I talk to someone who says, oh, I was born in 1980, oh, you missed so much. Just an amazingly fertile, creative time to have grown up in the 60s as a young musician and to start it out in the early 60s with surf music and the first British invasion. And for me, it was the second British invasion that really lit me up once I was playing drums, and when I heard The Who and when I heard the Kinks and this new edgy, angry energy that was in it. That changed my world and inflamed my whole desire to play music and inspired me with how you might go about it. And I always say one reason I admired Pete Townshend in those days, he smashes guitars and read books.
Yeah, I think that you and Roger Waters and John Lennon and have dispelled that thing that our parents used to say, well, they're just dumb musicians. They don't know.
Worse than that, drummers.
Oh, yeah. And the Doors, for example, every one of those guys got a college degree, Brian May, now Dr. Brian May. No dummy.
Yeah,
how are you going to beat that?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Or Skunk
How
Baxter.
are Geddy and Alex taking this milestone?
So many.
I think all of us just, there are so many emotions involved, and gratitude just leaped into my mind of one reason to have achieved what we have in this time. And yes, we're grateful for what we are right now, but the road that's brought us here, of course, all seems so vivid. And the language among us are memories and catchphrases and incidents going back through all of those years and the struggling years of the 70s and all that. And yes, especially in the last 10 years, have received every accolade and praise and honorary degree, that you can be presented with. So that is a wonderful feeling, and been honored as individual instrumentalists, and every facet of what we do really has been appreciated over time. And, that appreciation wasn't always there. Surprise. But it really, the last decade, that kind of feedback has come back on us in a very gratifying way. So I think we're very comfortable and happy about that, and consequently comfortable and happy going into celebrating our 40th anniversary. And of course, there are people that are neurotic about aging, and I don't get that at all. I'm 62.5 years old, and I'm proud of it.
0.5.
And like I said before, anyone younger, I think they missed out on what we got to live through. You know, again, I'm grateful for that, and I think, you know, I've survived longer than a lot of our rock and roll peers have. I'm grateful of that and for that, and always aware of it, and consequently go into this with a really healthy attitude towards, yes, we survived 40 years as a band, and yes, I played the drums for 50 years this September, and yes, I've been around 62.5 years, so that's all sweet to me.
And something to be proud of. You know?
I am. Survival is like survival alone.
Right.
Is something to be proud of.
I mean, you know.
I think that our generation
Everybody
still has that the thing in the back of our head when we were young, don't trust anybody over 30.
What the
so,
heck?
you know, now look at us. You know?
Well, I hope I get it before I get old and all that.
Yeah.
You know, Pete Townsend's really tired of hearing about that. But it was an attitude of youth and freshness and rebelling and knowing it all. You know, that those are natural recourses of youth to hide from your insecurity and your ignorance about everything. That you pretend that what you are is all there is.
Recourses
and then
of
as
youth,
you learn and grow up with that, you go, if you're open to it and not afraid of change and growth and learning and all that, then it becomes a happy thing. And learning more is not a challenge or a threat. It's a reward and a stimulation.
Well, you know, you mentioned that, you know, you guys have finally been recognized for the great musicianship that... Oh, I almost gave you a compliment. I'm sorry. I don't want to do that.
Careful, I'm squirming.
I know you're saying But as Dave Grohl said, their legacy is incredible and influence in it now. But he said that you did earn it from the ground up. That's true with you guys, because when Rush first came out, the fans got it. Some of the fans... But not the critics didn't flock to being Rush fans at the beginning.
Well, nor fans, honestly. We had to build that up the hard way by playing. We were an opening act for everybody that was around in the 70s. You know, you mentioning, oh yeah, we opened for them. Oh yeah, we opened for them. And so we learned it was a good object lesson to have come up a bit slowly. And our first 3 albums certainly were just on a plateau that allowed us to get gigs, and that was about it. And if we were opening for somebody bigger on a tour, maybe on days off, we'd play a club or even high schools. You know, all of that was still a part of our working life at the time, and so we had time to adjust and to see how other bands were dealing with fame and the conflicts of it, and it became an object lesson. Okay, don't be like that. You know, there are inspirations in life, but I'm not sure how you would define a negative inspiration, but as much as I would say early on, oh, I want to be like that, I want to be that kind of musician, I want to be that kind of hero. You know, lately I've had an idea that came to me in mind that when you aren't a hero in school, in sports, really for a young boy, especially a young male, if you're not good in sports, you have no chance to be a hero. So you kind of turn inward and you want to be your own hero, and you emulate the musicians that you admire and set a good example for you. But as we were coming up, and we were in our early 20s at this point, in the mid 70s, so a kind of a formative age, or early adulthood, I suppose, even for a male. And we did have both object lessons that were inspirational and others that were instructional, I guess, and okay, don't be like that.
You know, one of the great things about having some miles under your belt, I learned a long time ago, in doing the interviews, is that the people who were just starting out, had one hit and thought they were Elvis, had the attitude. George Harrison came here one time and spent the first 10 minutes making me feel comfortable. Because what did he have to prove?
Yeah, right.
You know, and he had gone through all of that, and I just thought that was, you know, a great lesson.
And that's a nice way to define it, too. And it's liberating in a sense. And another way that I like to ascribe to it, we're kind of, like, people don't understand what Freddie Mercury meant by "we are the champions of the world." In the olden days, even before we walked the earth, if a village was fighting with another village, instead of going to war, they'd pick their strong guy to go fight against the strong guy in the other village. That was the champion. And what Freddie Mercury meant by that is, we're the champions for you, right? We're out here fighting that battle. And there's a kind of a privilege and responsibility on you, I think. And people say, well, why did you keep taking lessons and try so hard and go off into big band music and all that stuff? And I said, well, I do consider that a responsibility. I've been allowed to be a professional musician.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? You know, I've been able to spend my life being being a
incredible
professional
perspective.
musician. So
Not
there's a
everybody
certain
thinks that way.
responsibility that goes with that to live up to, I believe. And I always felt that, okay, you can never be too good. You can never, your last show might have been okay, but guess what? There's another one tomorrow night.
Yep.
And those kind of self-imposed pressures, I guess, in the same sense of trying to be your own hero, it did come to me that, yes, okay, I have this position as a champion to speak. And a lot of times, just talking about lyrics and that, it is anger and outrage that inspires me to try to put that into words for other people. Mm-hmm. And going back like a song like Subdivisions, that was a song about us, but it was a song about so many other people too, right? And that we could put into words what it was like to grow up in that cookie cutter kind of environment and try to find a way out of it. Mm-hmm. That's what we shared early on, that suburban rebellion, you might call it, with our audience, and we're able to bring them forward with us because they shared it.
And that you mentioned a song that resonated with so many people who were having trouble fitting in, and those years can be brutal on people.
Well, yes, and I always I used a line in The Clockwork Angels about wish I could live it all again, and I've never felt that way. Right? I do not want to go back. But my late drum teacher, Freddie Gruber, was fading in his 80s, and he had lived through the jazz. The golden years of jazz in the 40s and the early 50s in New York City, and been part of that whole scene. He said, I had quite a ride. I wish I could do it all again. So I adapted that line to my character in the song, but I have never felt that way. And maybe when I'm 80, I will, but for now, I'm glad to have done it all once, but oh no, not going back.
Well, also, you're not done yet, and you keep looking forward. And I think and we're going to get into the book here in a moment, but everything about that book is you're just taking life and sucking it in, and chewing on it and making sure that you taste every flavor of it. So with that attitude, it's not like, well, I want to go back and have the chocolate that I had when I was 16, because there's better chocolate out there you haven't discovered yet.
Right on. Yeah, and there's a quarrel I have with nostalgia a lot of times, really, when people are into old instruments and all that, and the drums, for example, just to pick the prettiest instrument. Old drums are nice, but new ones are better. Old motorcycles are nice, but new ones are better.
Well, we're talking with Neil Peart, getting ready for their 40th anniversary tour, to be in the limelight again. But I'm going to do my best not to give him any compliments for the next hour and 45 minutes on Deep Track. Never before have I heard of a rocker writing a song about, I love you guys, but just, I'm not comfortable with all of that. And it's really well done in that. Neil Peart is my guest. We're talking about Rush, talking about the 40th anniversary tour, but right now we're going to talk about your new book.
Oh, great.
This is your 6th.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Some people would be happy with a career if they wrote 6 books.
I was happy to write one, honestly, and that's an example of how your goals increase. And people will often say to me in the band part, did you ever dream you'd play in Maple Leaf Gardens or Madison Square Garden? No, I dreamed of playing at the roller rink in the high school, one step at a time. And same thing when I first started writing was in... I always love to recount this because around the time 2112 came out and we were on tour, and touring had always been tedious for me, and people would presume to be jaded and say, when did you feel that way? And I said, after 1 month, I realized there's so much empty time here, and reading became my escape and a nurturing way to actually spend that time instead of just killing it. Yeah, not killing time, but spending it. So in 1976, I went to a pawn shop in Little Rock, Arkansas, and bought myself a typewriter. I thought, I'm going to write. And it was 20 years before I published my first book, in which time I learned how to do it and had expert tutelage and worked on the craft until that point. So yes, I would absolutely, just publishing one book would have been the ultimate goal for me at the time.
All right. Wow. There's part 1. Awesome. I can already tell that this is going to be an awesome interview, and it's just getting started. This is literally just getting started. This is part 1 of a 6-part, what I cut up, hour and a half interview. So we're in for it. I need to get my pen and paper out, because I got to take notes. There's so much in here. And it's hard for me to keep it all, because I'm also trying to just keep listening, right? Yeah, the part about like, you know, did you ever think you were gonna play at, you know, at the Maple Leaf Garden and this, that, and the other? And no, I was, you know, like that's an example of like you're never happy and satisfied. You just keep raising your goal, your limit, your what you're striving for, what you're shooting for as you achieve and attain, you know, each step, right? The process, right? And I definitely get that. Yeah. Yeah, my wife says all the time, "You're never happy. You're never happy," which is completely not true, actually. It's like totally not true. Maybe it's not like always outwardly true, but like it's inwardly true for me. I mean, there are times when I'm not happy for sure, but like but the reason why I say it is because it's because of this. It's because of how he's thinking, how he's saying that he's thinking. It's like, yeah, because I achieved one thing. Maybe I'm not a good celebrator. I can accept that. Like not being good at like, okay, I made that first step, or I achieved the first goal, and I'm not stopping to celebrate in a way that maybe other people would, or whatever. I don't know. I keep going. I just keep going. I'm like, okay, next. Okay, next thing. Okay, next. Nope, not nope. We're still we're keeping down. There's more road to go, right? There's more road to go. So it's like that kind of thing. Yeah, that was cool. It's interesting how like there was a little bit of lyric talk in here about like, you know, he's talking about like writing in terms of characters and how he like, yeah, those are the lyrics, but he doesn't think that. And I remember that they said that about Roll the Bones, about like, well, you're not thinking that it's like chance, right? You know, like even though that whole album was about like chance and, you know, gambling, taking chances, right? That they didn't believe that. It's like, no, hard work, right? So it's interesting, and that's fine. That's totally cool with me. It doesn't need to be literal, you know, to me, because it's music. It's like music for people. It could be literal, or it could be fact or fiction. You know, it could be literal, or it could be a story, or it could be characters, things like that. So that's kind of like why it's like, you can't blame this kind of music for this thing that happened in the world, right? They used to blame heavy metal for things, or Marilyn Manson, or whatever, you know, all kinds, or rap, you know, all that kind of thing. It's like, then we get to blame everything, right? Because there's movies and there's video games and there's et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is all entertainment, you know, and this is why there's warning labels, which is a whole other, I'm not trying to open a can of worms here, I promise, but you know, it's just, even just the thought process is leading me down a rabbit hole of all that kind of thing. Cause I know that wasn't a thing before. Didn't used to be that parental advisory on the albums, on the CDs, you know. When did that happen? That happened with like Al Gore's wife, right? I vaguely remember that, right? So anyways, I'm gonna get my notepad out so I can remember more of what's going on here. And but I just already, I'm like, oh wow, this is gonna be great. The other interview, the more recent interview that I did with at the Strombo show of Neil Peart, was okay, was all right, but this, I'm like, this is gonna be great. I feel like this is gonna be great, so I'm excited about this. Awesome. Okay, guys, I'll catch you. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next part. Later.